Locals pronounce Heavener, Oklahoma as Heavener. I have seen Heavener and Heavener. I've also pronounced it Heavener, period. Yet locals say Heavener. Just getting the name pronounced right tells you that it's tricky to know if this video is even correct or not. This is a questionable truth or fraud video resulting from my recent road trip into northeast Oklahoma. My opinion of the Heavener Runestone. There is a lot of history of people migrating all over the world, very common. I was a little curious about long ago immigration through Oklahoma. Did a bit of research and visited the Heavener Runestone Park near Heavener, Oklahoma, northeastern Oklahoma. I wanted to see proof that Vikings were in Oklahoma. As per the park's website, the Heavener Runestone is a large sandstone that contains 8 markings believed to have been a boundary marker created by Vikings between 600 and 800 AD. Wow! Now that is truly amazing. Well, in theory, Heavener, Oklahoma is in a mountainous area located near a stream bed. The Heavener Runestone Park is very nice. To get to the Runestone, it's a short, fun, ruggedly outlined trail leading down to the stone. There is foliage, rocks, and natural beauty all around. A small spring-type waterfall cascades along the trail, easy to view as you journey towards the Runestone. A small building encases the Runestone for protection from the elements and vandalism. The stone was originally called Indian Rock. There are oral records, recorded long after the stories were originated, from the Choctaw Indians mentioning the site in the 1830s. Yet, absolutely no evidence supporting those stories has yet been discovered. This runestone was originally documented by Carl Kammerer and submitted to the Smithsonian in 1923. Not a whole lot to say about that. Was it rejected? No, not necessarily, but it was documented. Welcome to the hoax. The Runestone Park is clouded in a mire of controversy. Discovered at a time when immigration of Scandinavians into the U.S. was high and migration into Oklahoma was at full steam. Coincidentally, rune-carved stones began popping up across the Midwest, such as in Minnesota, the Kensington Runestone was found in 1898, likely a hoax. In Oklahoma, the Heavener and 2 other runestones found in the early and late 20th century, also likely hoaxes. Then, much later, in Maine, the Spirit Pond runestones found in 1971. This is a bit of an outlier, not really related to these turn-of-the-century 1900 runestones, but very likely, almost 100% sure, a hoax directly related and built off of that Kensington runestone hoax. Archaeologists and linguists, while not completely trashing the Minnesota and Oklahoma finds, strongly suggest that most, if not all, of these North American runestones are not genuine Vikings artifacts, to put it nicely. Before quickly going over my road trip, looking into the Heavener Runestone Park, and in depth looking at the research of the Heavener Runestone, please consider subscribing and hitting that like button. Really, really important and helps a lot. I appreciate it very much. To begin, I wanted a fun road trip with destinations for my wife and I to enjoy. The trip included seeing the no longer maintained Peter Consider home and see the Runestone oddity, knowing the trip would take us along a scenic mountain drive. To get to Heavener, Oklahoma, my wife and I first enjoyed a relaxing drive through the Ouachita National Forest along the winding Stair Mountains in eastern Oklahoma. We headed north from Broken Bow, Oklahoma on Highway 259, past the Talamina National Scenic Byway, of which I have a recent video for that wonderful road trip, hopped on to Highway 59 and continued north. The drive in this northerly direction is really good. On Highway 59, we arrived at the south end of Heavener. I enjoyed watching a train perform some switching as we waited to cross into the older part of downtown. Getting to the Heavener Runestone Park was fairly simple. The roads are not well maintained though, so go slow, especially if you're in a sports car. The Heavener Runestone Park is a 55-acre park, formerly a state park of Oklahoma. It was transferred to the city of Heavener in 2011, and now it's operated by the Friends of Heavener Runestone, a non-profit organization. I wonder if this change of hands occurred because the Runestone is considered a hoax? I don't know. Anyway, please note that I have several links in the description. Several. Especially a scientific report or two and some very well done videos. They explain in more details beyond what I have for this video. The timeline of what is known. Archaeologists believe humans have occupied Oklahoma for around 30,000 years at least. Prehistory natives, such as the Paleo Indians, have been in the Oklahoma area since the last ice age. We're talking at least 10,000 years ago, if not longer. There existed groups from the Woodland Period culture, the Fork, Malign, and Mossy Grove cultures around 200 BC to 800 AD, tending to occupy the eastern part of Oklahoma. Later came the Caddoan, Mississippian cultures from 800 to 1450 AD, followed by the Wichita and affiliate tribes from about 900 to the 1400s or 1500s. They occupied eastern Oklahoma, western Arkansas, and portions of Missouri, northeast Texas, and northern Louisiana. Heavener came into existence as a Choctaw settlement, probably in the early 1800s. White settlers entered the area in the 1880s. The town boomed with the railroad around 1896. The native Indians organized cities near and along specific trade routes. One example was the city of Spiro, Oklahoma, near the Poteau River, which connects with the Arkansas River. Trade routes is a key to the rationalization behind the existence of the Heavener Runestone. Routes that include the use of the Mississippi and Arkansas rivers as well as the Poteau. So please keep that in mind. A little more about the European immigrants, the first known whites in Oklahoma. The first white settlement was Jean-Pierre Chateau in 1796 near the present-day Salina, Oklahoma. That's in the northeastern part of Oklahoma, northeast of Tulsa. There was a mining boom in the 1870s that brought Europeans into the Choctaw Nation, the eastern part of Oklahoma. In 1889, there was the opening of all unassigned lands to non-Indians in Oklahoma, land not assigned to Indian tribes. So these are Europeans, namely Germans, Scandinavians, Italians, Russians, Czechoslovakians, and Southern Europeans. This created the first of the famous Oklahoma land runs, which my dad's family was part of, the Travis family. And they were in Oklahoma in a sod house. Now, with the known timeline established, let's begin inserting the Vikings. The The Vikings were primarily known as highly skilled seamen and fearless raiders. Their stories go back over 1,000 years ago, a time coinciding with the woodland culture, Caddoan, Mississippian cultures, and the Wichita and affiliated tribes throughout Oklahoma. Vikings traveled out from Scandinavia and settled in Iceland in 874. Then Greenland colonies arose around 1000 and were abandoned gradually during the 14th and 15th centuries, so around the 1350s through the 1430s. A Viking encampment in Newfoundland, Canada, has been found and dates to the year 1000 or 1021. Not even going to try to pronounce the name, but it sounds like the land of the meadows. The site was abandoned by 1145 AD. Over the years, various accounts, unvalidated stories, have placed Norse colonies in Maine, Rhode Island, and elsewhere along the Atlantic coast. The murkiness begins. The murkiness begins with stories maintaining those unsubstantiated Viking travel stories. From the imagination of Frederick Pohl, a New York-based Norse historian, actually a playwright, literary critic, editor, and book author whom wrote fiction and seemingly enjoyed the writings of Shakespeare very, very, very much. And using the hoax Vinland map, Pohl claimed the Vikings, or Norse, traveled down the east coast, went past Florida, and entered the Mississippi River via the Gulf of Mexico. From there, they sailed to the Arkansas River, which is a tributary into the Mississippi, and then to the Poteau River, heading straight into Heavener. Amazing and highly unlikely. Additionally, based on his own analysis, American runologist Dr. Richard Nielsen stated that the journey must have occurred between the start of the 600s to the end of the 700s. Funny thing though, the good doctor had a philosophy, not of worldly advice and observations about the Vikings, but of himself being known as an investigator and author. Weird, yeah, he liked to sell books. To be fair though, Dr. Nielsen's academic credentials are highly impressive, and I mean that seriously. A seemingly extremely smart and talented man, but he spoke out of both sides of his mouth. Yeah, white men speak with forked tongue. While denouncing all North American runestones, he also supports them. Perhaps his controversy funded his motives. In an interview, Dr. Nielsen said, "The Norse were capable of outfitting expeditions to the New World and could possibly have conducted an expedition into the interior of North America in the 1360s. Later, the good doctor began to backpedal and give details as to the oddities of the North American runestones he studied, stating that more research was required. The Heavener Runestone, from the park's own words, is claimed to have been a boundary marker created by Vikings between 600 and 800 AD, likely based on Dr. Nielsen's accounts. Getting a little deeper into the Heavener Runestone controversy. While Vikings definitely reached North America, specifically Newfoundland, modern-day Canada, there's no solid evidence that they traveled far inland into the continent. The Norse settlements on the northern tip of Newfoundland is the only confirmed area of Vikings in North America. No other settlements in Canada. No settlements on the North American mainland. Nothing has been identified as Norse. Nothing. All artifacts are considered fakes, including the Heavener Runestone. Two other major fraud examples are the Vinland map, also a product of something used within Dr. Nielsen's information and what the park tends to use to solidify their claims. The first record of the map dates to 1957 when a dealer offered it to the British Museum. The second fraud example is the Kensington Runestone, discovered in 1898 in Minnesota. Claiming that the Heavener stone is a Viking artifact is extremely problematic. The evidence is insurmountable. I just listed 15 reasons why it is unlikely a part of Viking history in North America. No cultural evidence in the region, no archaeological evidence, no Norse approach to translation fits the stone. The inscription doesn't really make all that much sense, although that tends to be sometimes common. It is well scripted, though, in orderly characters. Writing does not match with those known per its claimed form and vocabulary. The letters are large, just not characteristic of runic inscriptions. The discontinuity of the diagonal strokes is unique in the runic corpus. Distance between the letters is off. The inscription includes runes from different time periods. There's a lack of weathering that would match with its age or claimed age. The stories are just goofy. Going around the coast, going around Florida, up the Mississippi, all that, that's just so very unlikely. And it just goes on. There's so many reasons for this not to be a true artifact. If the Vikings didn't make the Heavener Runestone, well, who did? A number of runestones have been found in Oklahoma. All of them are of modern origin, dating to the 19th century, produced by 19th century Scandinavian settlers. From the Times Record article, it says, quote unquote, Dr. Hendrik Williams, a preeminent runologist in the world, of Uppsala University in Sweden, said the probability points to the Oklahoma runes most likely being carved in the 19th century. He leaves a slim 20% chance that they were carved in the 10th or 11th century. He just can't say they are a hoax. Has to leave that door open. Researchers consider that the Heavener Runestone was likely made by Scandinavian immigrants, possibly a Swede or Norwegian working at the local train depot. Most accepted date is between 1866 and 1923 for when this stone was carved, a time of the largest wave of Swedish immigration, when it was winding down a little bit. A couple of other theories as to who and why the Oklahoma runestones were created to begin with do exist. It's just more information that is not necessary for this video, so I am not including any of that. I do want to say thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. Please consider subscribing. I thank you very much for that. And click on that like button. The like button is of great importance for YouTube videos. Really helps a lot. I hope you have a great road trip very soon, perhaps to see the Heavener hoax yourself. Consider that, could it be real? I don't know. Nonetheless, be sure to relax, take it easy, be a motoring fanatic, and I will see you later. Bye.